Welcome to Meet SRU Faculty. I'm Alyssa Cirincione, and today the Director of Career Education and Development Center, John Rindy, will be talking with me about his accomplishments throughout his career, as well as the Career Education and Development Center. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Great. So you're currently going to school for your education doctorate right now.
That's right.
How has that experience been?
It's been interesting. I would have thought going into a leadership and management program, having coming out of the corporate world, may not teach me as much as it has. So it's been very enlightening because you spend so much more time with leadership theory. And as you read through the theorists, you start to realize, wow, this stuff happens every day. And now I have a way of actually explaining those phenomena that I see out there and finding ways of dealing with them. And it's been very enriching, and I've used a lot of what I've learned as I've encountered students in my office and across campus as well. So it's been great.
Great. So how long is your doctorate program?
Well, it's about 3 years of, three and a half years of coursework, and then the dissertation phase usually takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months. It's a little different than PhD dissertation work would be, where you're doing traditional research. In the EDD, you tend to do more action research. So the difference being that the researcher is actually inserted into the experiment. So ours is described more along the lines of an intervention of some sort. And my intervention is going to be on aligning parents' perceptions of career development. So essentially I'm going to be using webinars to reach out to parents of students who have expressed interest in coming to Slippery Rock, to educate them about what happens during the 4 years of college, or what should happen during the 4 years of college, making connections, building transferable skills that could be taken into the workplace, and learning about the big high impact practices that students should engage in: internships and practicum, research with faculty members, study abroad, service learning. These create the stories that students can then go on to not only write about in a resume, but talk about in a job interview and then apply in the workplace. So it's been a lot of fun to sew this all together.
Right up your alley.
It is. I mean, when you do action research, you really are supposed to do something that positively impacts your institution. And so I thought long and hard, and I figured that, well, first of all, with a dissertation that reaches out to students who are thinking about coming to the Rock, it might compel some of them to say, well, gee, no other school's doing that for us, helping us choose majors before we even come. I should stay on the path to come to Slippery Rock University. But also, it will bring to our table students who are more prepared to build those skills that are going to be necessary all 4 years, more prepared to choose a major based on the criteria they should be using to choose a major. And that will help our retention. And we already have fantastic first-year retention here at Slippery Rock, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, definitely. That's really great. So the Career Education and Development Center used to be called Career Services.
That's right.
Tell me about that name change and what that means for you guys.
When I first came to Slippery Rock, it was right around this time, early April, and that was 2 years ago. And we were just about to undergo a 5-year review. Most offices on campus are required to have an external reviewer come onto campus and review their services. There's also an on-campus panel that will meet. The external reviewers will ask them questions. Where do you see the career office? Where do you see them engaging students? Where could they improve? And so we took that report and we took it to heart, and we said, you know, in 5 years, we'd like to look back and say, we've done something about everything on this report. Now, there wasn't a lot of things saying that the office was terrible, or that we weren't doing this or we weren't doing that, but there were a lot of great suggestions. It helped us identify what we're really strong at doing, and that is that interpersonal engagement of students, those one-on-one appointments that are so valued by students on our surveys, and what weaknesses we might have. You know, career offices tend to not have the outreach, that marketing that some other offices on campus have, such as our Center for Student Involvement and Leadership, Office of Multicultural Development. These offices have lots of ways of reaching students. And so we needed to improve our marketing, you know, more than anything else, and get our word out. But I think the key was, the thing that really came out of that was that, what is it that we do in our office? And what does services say? Well, career services. Well, let's see. What are those services? Well, maybe that's the place I go 2 weeks before graduation and they'll do my resume for me.
Yeah.
Not true. And
Right.
so we didn't want those perceptions hanging out there. So we asked the question of ourselves, what do we do every day? Well, let's see, students come in and we teach them about the market, about resumes, about mock interviewing, how to write a powerful graduate admission statement. And so we educate. You learn when you come to our office. What else are we engaged in? Well, 4 years of development. We want to send a message to students that you cannot wait to build your network of who you know until you're a senior, because you won't know anybody when you graduate. So we said, I wonder what would happen if we just changed our name to Career Education and Development. That would be much more clear, and we would be able to tell that story at orientation. So that's sort of where the name came from. It was part of our strategic plan that we designed 2 years ago that's been working fantastic. And it's time for us to revisit that plan this summer, and we'll be doing some of that as a team.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like the name change definitely kicked in, and it kind of flipped the way students see the center and what you guys do for students.
It's an education process. I know I just came from an event today earlier, and they laid out the tables of the different offices on campus, and they put the name of your office so you know what table is yours.
Right.
And I walked up to ours and it said Career Services. So it's one of those, it's a cultural thing. If you've worked here a long time, it's hard to now say Career Education and Development, but in fact, it tells a really specific story of what happens in our office. And the biggest change in our approach to career development has been that we are now we have exponential growth in the number of first-year seminar programs that we're in. We speak at WOW, we speak at orientation, and so we reach students a lot earlier now and there's a lot of other little subtle things that we do that reach out to those students earlier. So our traffic has increased dramatically in the last 2 years.
That's great. So you mentioned before off camera about your staff being a horizontal organization. Explain to me what you meant by that.
I think each person in our office can be recognized for what they're really good at doing. And there's no question everybody has gifts. I remember during my interview somebody asked me, what would the first week or two look like if you were to be director of what was then Career Services? And I said, well, probably beyond 2 weeks, I would want to see what gifts exist in our office. Everyone is given certain gifts that they bring to the table when they come to work each day.
Right.
And so that's what we did. I spent some time getting to know what gifts exist. And so while everybody has those niche areas that they're really talented at tackling every day, I know what they do. I mean, I know what John Snyder does, I know what Renee does, but I don't do everything that they do. So we have this horizontal operation where everybody kind of has their niche, their thing that they work on, including our GAs, including our student employees. They're all good at one thing. And I always say that the one thing that's different about me as director is that ultimately I'm the person who goes to my boss and says, here's what's happening. So that's the one thing that kind of sets us apart. Everybody has equal input in leadership in our office. And I'm always offended by the leadership notion that because you have the director name, that somehow you have all the great ideas.
Right.
If you come to the table with that type of attitude, you better be also ready to take the fall when something doesn't work. Because you can't say, well, this is my idea, let's go do it. Then it fails, well, it's all your fault because it didn't work. So our strategic plan is a coalescence of everyone's idea. Rather than me having to sell it to them where they had to buy into it, they simply enrolled in it because they were part of it. And everybody carries out their individual parts. So for example, John Snyder is known the state over as the expert in education career development. If somebody on the other end of the state wants to know something about praxis or education resumes or how to develop interview skills for educators, they call John Snyder. I mean, all the way across this state, everybody knows that John Snyder is the absolute expert. He's been here almost 25 years. Fantastic guy, great sense of humor, fantastic to work with. Renee Coyne comes to the table with a background in sciences, biology and now student affairs.
Oh, wow.
And nobody will make you work harder to be precise on your cover letters, your resumes, your interviewing skills, your paperwork for grad school than Renee. When you leave Renee's office, you will have learned something. Right. And I've learned from her that counseling technique of being patient, letting the student think through it, work through it, and that it's okay that you don't feed them the answers all the time.
Yep.
All of my GAs, and not to go through everyone individually, but I'll just give an example. Just 2 days ago, 2 of our GAs who are, we have one first-year master's degree student and a second-year, went with me to another school in our state system. And they, along with myself, taught their career office how to do career counseling.
Wow.
Their GAs, their professional staff were sitting there taking notes from our GAs.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic. So it's respecting, learning the talents, and then recognizing that in this horizontal setting, we can all see any student. So a safety management student can come to me, John, Renee.
Right.
But at the same time, we also have little things that we're really good at individually.
Yep. That's great, and that's what makes a horizontal organization work so well. You know, because you're working as a team. You're not working within your individual roles.
Absolutely. In fact, it doesn't work well if you don't have those individual specialties. John runs our testing center up here, all the praxis and PAP exams for educators. I can talk with a student about which exam they should take, but what's it going to be like? What's the experience like? How does the test center operate? I just couldn't do it on a day-to-day basis without John having his finger on that button. You know, very talented guy.
Yeah, definitely. All right. When we come back after the break, I'll be talking with John about his current laboratory and field science research.
Hi, this is Madison from TNB Naturally in the Library.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
I'm Eric.
Hi, I'm Lori Martella from the History Department.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marshall from the Communication Department.
Hi, my name's Rita.
My name is Mac Bean.
Hi, my name is Chris Liberty.
I'm Steve Luderin, a student here at Slippery Rock.
Hey, I'm Cody Moody.
And I'm Tim Durr.
You're watching Channel 27.
Channel 27.
Where you're watching WSRU 27.
Channel 27.
And you're watching WSRU TV Channel 27.
Make sure you tune into Channel 27.
And we watch WSRU Channel 27.
And I'm watching WSRU Channel 27.
And you're watching WSRU Channel 27.
And I watch WSRU TV Channel 27.
Welcome back, everyone, to Meet SRU Faculty. Today, the Director of Career Education and Development, John Rindy, and myself have been talking about the different aspects of the Career Education and Development Center and how they help students. So, to break away from the Career Education and Development Center a little bit, your research about air contaminants. Tell me more about what you found with that.
Well, a lot of people wonder, how do you get from science, my science background in the corporate world of 20 plus years, into the career realm, and your show's not long enough for me to go through that entire story, but suffice to say, I started in the corporate world for 20 plus years, where I did work in environmental sciences. One of my undergraduate degrees is in environmental studies, and I've taught at the university level in environmental studies as well. And I did some work in healthcare as well. Now, in the environmental field, we work with different matrices: soil, water, air, groundwater, surface water, drinking water. And I know that I've worked with all of those, but one area that really always interested me was air quality, protecting human health from some of the contaminants that we breathe. And toward the end of my time in my professional career in the private sector, we did a lot of work with air quality. It was getting so popular because you had buildings that were built at a time when we had schools with flat roofs that leaked, older air handling systems that developed all sorts of problems. And so probably toward the end of that time, worked in probably 1,500 different schools and post offices, convenience stores, high-rise buildings, you name it, and even did some work at a few colleges that were having some air quality problems. And in terms of findings there, every place you go is a little bit different. And there's a lot of different things that can cause problems in a workplace that may not be air quality related. For example, if you sit at a desk all day that's not ergonomically correct, where your body's not in a good position, you start ending up with this sore upper body every day, and you come home and say, well, it's associated with my time at work, it must be in the air. So the air is an easy thing to blame because we can't see what's in the air all the time. Are there things in the air that can bother us, that can annoy us, that can cause allergies and asthma and even infections? Absolutely. Those things are out there. They're generally few and far between. Fortunately, we have a very strong public health component in our country. I've traveled to Asia where that's not the case, where you walk down the street and you want to wear a paper mask over your face in some of the cities there. Not necessarily the case here anymore. Certainly was the case here years ago. Right. So what we found is in most cases, as long as you are working in an area where the ambient air outside was of good quality, you always had the opportunity to restore indoor air quality to a building that was maybe having some problems. Okay. So we've investigated things. I think one of the most interesting projects I worked on was a hospital that was having some incidents of lung infections, and it was on their cancer floor. And what we found was it was actually it was a microorganism that was causing it, and it was coming from the black pepper that they were serving to their patients. Believe it or not, there's a specific bug, a fungus that lives in that, and we looked through the ducts. We took the air samples, we took outside samples to try to identify where this bug was coming from, and turned out that the fungus was actually coming from the food that the folks were eating, so they were able to abate that. So it's just really interesting. Every project is unique. And what's really fun about that is, and I guess where it ties into career, is that in both realms, at the end of the day, you helped someone. Right. And when people saw the air quality expert, the industrial hygienist show up, they knew that somebody was finally there trying to help them solve the problem that bothered them every day or added anxiety to their life. And I think I see the same thing every day in the career realm, where students come in saying, well, it's getting to be April and I still don't have an internship. And to know at the end of the day you can kind of help direct them to somebody that may give them that opportunity for the summer is pretty gratifying.
Yeah, definitely. So being that you've worked at other colleges like Youngstown State University and Teal College, what are some differences that you've seen between those colleges' programs and Slippery Rock's programs?
I think that we have a very cooperative faculty here. When I ask, can we come into your class and talk about this, we are always invited in. More and more faculty members here are very eager to add a career component to the course. Just in this last year, I'll cite our partnership with Dr. Cleary in public health. Mike and I had talked about, well, let's try to work a mock interview into the senior seminar. And so this year we saw pretty close to 60 public health seniors who otherwise would not have had an interview, many of whom would not have had an interview before graduating. But now they've had that little sample. John Snyder has forged similar relationships with art and with music. I know that we also have Parks and Rec come in and do mock interviews, and junior comm, senior comm students. I had a junior comm today who came in and did a mock interview. So it's those partnerships are so valuable. I didn't see that flexibility on the other campuses. I think the other thing that I've noticed that was a stark difference coming here is the quality and the seriousness of the students. I know that Slippery Rock is seen as a somewhat selective school. I know we accept right around 60% of the people that apply here. Contrast that to Youngstown State, whose mission is to serve everyone. If you have a GED or if you have a high school diploma, you can go to YSU, and they have services maybe to help people who are underprepared for college. I don't see so much the underprepared students here. I see students who are hungry, for life, who are ready to go out and face the workforce, who come out with extra minors, second majors, and are very marketable. Where I think we come into play is that we are sort of the shine on all of that. Now let's put that all together in a puzzle so that you can talk about that. You may know all the things you did. Let's put them in writing. We call that a resume, you know? Now let's talk about how you turn those into stories that you can tell in an interview when someone asks you, give me an example of when you worked successfully on a team, or give me an example of when you engaged with somebody and you had a disagreement. How did you resolve that? Those are standard interview questions, and if they never happen to you, you're going to have a hard time answering that. Our students get involved and they have answers for those questions. We just help them polish the answers. So great student population here, and it's nice being here 2 years. I get to know people like you by name.
Yeah, there you go, which is awesome.
It is.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time and coming out and joining me on Meet SRU Faculty.
It's a beautiful day. Couldn't pick a better day.
It really is. It really is. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching Meet SRU Faculty. I'm Alyssa Cirincione, and I hope to see you next time.